There are two questions. Question number one, I want you to put yourself in Chris Oyakhilome's shoes and imagine you being Chris Oyakhilome. How could you have reacted or responded to this fire incident? Question number two, assume you were not Chris Oyakhilome's Mugu or follower. Assume that, because you can't imagine how I want you to imagine if you are Chris Oyakhilome's follower. That's why I want you to be neutral. If you were not his follower or his Mugu, how could you have perceived this whole incident? Because most of you are looking at it, those that love Chris Oyakhilome, that follow Chris Oyakhilome, you are looking at it from an emotional point of view. And your emotional responses are mainly focused on the property that was lost. But, my people, there are reasons why I asked you these two questions. Because there are anomalies that I want us to point out. First and foremost, this fire outbreak was on a Sunday. And we all know Sundays are the days that Christians gather to worship. Christ Embassy has numbers, huge numbers, thousands and thousands. And this was the headquarters where Chris Oyakhilome is present. So you can only imagine the attendance. You can only imagine how many people show up for the Sunday service. Keep checking and ticking all these points that I'm raising. This fire outbreak was around, if we are judging from the time we saw it online, because it was still blazing. I think it was around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Yeah. And by that time, there should be preparations in the church. By that time, masses would have already filled up the seats in the auditorium. And at Chris Oyakhilome's church, if you want to get a good seat, a better place to be able to see the men of God, you have to show up very early in the morning. Very early. 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you must be at the venue. And let's assume people were already there. Not everyone. I do not know the time that their services start, but a significant number was on the ground, probably in the auditorium, praying. These are general members we're talking about. Apart from general members, you might not be familiar with how these religious organizations operate, especially one as big as Chris Oyakhilome's. There is a group of caretakers that make sure that everything is in order. Where were these people before the fire outbreak? There is a group of media team, the ones that make sure that Chris Oyakhilome is broadcasted all over the world on different digital platforms. Where were they before this fire outbreak? There is the praise and worship, who have to be there early for practice and preparation so that they can give a stellar performance to the audience, so that they can inspire people spiritually. They just don't show up on the dot at the exact time the service is starting. They come earlier, hours prior to the main service. Remember, the fire erupted around 9:10. That's when we started seeing it live online, because the people that were broadcasting this whole incident, they were doing it live. So you can't manipulate a live recording. It was recorded in real time. I was still talking about the praise and worship. Where were they before the fire erupted? I'm getting somewhere. Please follow me. Apart from the praise and worship, we have your intercessors. This is a group of those individuals that are, I don't want to describe them in the notion that I normally do so that I don't distract this conversation. But let me just say those people that pray so much in church, that are shouting and clapping hands and speaking in ridiculous tongues, they're always early to warm up the ground, to prepare the members and get them ready to receive the men of God, to take their spirituality up a notch and uplift them so that when the men of God come and say, "Psh," everyone falls. There's that group in each and every church. The question is, where were they before the fire erupted? This is the reason why I'm asking all these questions. According to Chris Oyakhilome's report or public statement, or Christ Embassy's statement, they claim that no life was affected. There are no casualties. The damage was only to the property. Given these facts that I have given, where were these people when the fire erupted? The service must have already commenced. If it had not, people should have already been gathered in the auditorium. So if people were already gathered, all these groups that I've mentioned, why is it possible that no one was injured? Okay, let's maybe ask another question. How did the fire erupt? Who started the fire? Where did it start from? And how did it spread so fast? Was it like a minute after the other? Was it as slow as that? Was it spreading at a very constant rate, like they could see that there's a flame there and they would watch it? Oh, there's a flame. Oh, they started recording the flame, and the flame spread and started bending the mics, everything, as they are all watching it and observing it. Or it was just like a kaboom. A gas exploded, something like of that nature, or something that just made it a blaze like that. And if that's how it happened, then people should have been affected. People should have been injured, if that's how it happened. But we can't know all these things because journalists were not allowed. Media houses were not allowed. I doubt even if there was an investigation as to what could have happened. So how did the fire start? That's a very important question that should be answered. And depending on how the fire started, how is it possible no one was injured? How is it possible? How can it be possible? Considering the day this happened and the time that it happened, how can there be no one injured? Not that I want anyone to be injured. No, I'm just asking. If they are lying, it means there are so many people that suffered there, that are still suffering. And I say are still suffering because I don't think there's any medical help that has been delivered to them. And the reason why they would not give them any medical attention is because they do not want the public attention. Because when you talk about medical assistance, then ambulances should be going in. Ambulance could have been going in. And the reason why we did not see ambulances on any of the videos is because Chris Oyakhilome and his team reported that no one was injured. But how is it possible that no one was injured? How? Okay, let's put this one on the shelf. Let's look at other anomalies. If you were Chris Oyakhilome and this happened and you did not plan it, and for real no one is injured, if it was spontaneous, if it was an accident, is they are selling that narrative, could you have proceeded with the service and be as composed as he was? Could you not have been worried that there could be a major fault somewhere, somehow in the building, if it was accidental, that is, and you could not even risk the lives of masses by conducting a service on the very same day? If you were Chris Oyakhilome, were you going to conduct a service? Were you going to stand in front of people with your permed hair and say, we are even going to build a more beautiful auditorium, a more beautiful building. Let's look beyond the fire. What if another fire starts there again? You do not even know. Let's assume, bro, there's no way you could have known the cause of the fire when he's already on the pulpit few hours after the fire had damaged part of his property or building or auditorium. There's no way you could have just jumped on the mic and start preaching and start instilling confidence in his followers that everything is going to be all right. Impossible. If you were Chris Oyakhilome, you're going to put everything on hold. You're going to postpone everything until you find out the root cause of the fire, until you investigate if the lives of people are not at risk in that building or in those premises. What if what caused that fire could have caused another fire in the new auditorium that they were hosting the service? What if? Which now brings us to the conclusion that The reason why he did not panic, the reason why maybe if they maintain the narrative that no one was injured, the reason why no one was injured is because no one was there when the fire took place. And the reason why no one was there, because everyone was already moved before the fire started. And how could he have known that there's a fire that was about to start if he was not the one behind the whole fire thing? Count your teeth using your tongue, my people. Allow me to help you to think. I know most of you don't like thinking, but allow me to make you think. Now start thinking. The only reason why there will be no casualties or anyone affected is because Chris Oyakhilome already moved everyone prior to the fire to a safe zone where he did the service. And the whole fire started when no one was there. That can be the only justification. The auditorium was already set, the stage was already set on the other venue, so that when this fire starts, it will only take few hours or few minutes for him to stand on the pulpit and address the general public and give them confidence that everything is going to be all right. Let's assume this was the main auditorium. When did they get the time to assemble a new auditorium where he had to give whatever speech or continue business as usual? When did they get that time on the very same day, after a few hours, after a major fire like that, to carry on with the service? Why did he not dismiss people? Say, for now, everyone go back to your homes, wherever you're coming from, as we find out and investigate the cause of this fire. When we establish that it's safe for us to be together, then we'll announce in due time when our next service will be. But everything was so smooth. From one fire building to a new auditorium, and everything is moving so smooth. Come on, people, we are not stupid, yeah? Chris started this fire, or allegedly. Yeah, I think he did. There's no way. It's not adding up. Try to put the pieces together on your own. It's not adding up. It can't be possible that a fire starts and no one is affected and a service is holding a few hours later. If my spare bedroom, my very small bedroom, catches fire right now, I will not do a broadcast for the next 2 months. It's just a small bedroom. And it has not bent anything. It has just bent maybe just the corner of a bed. I will not do a broadcast investigating, finding out what happened. And Chris lost an entire building, an entire auditorium, and did a service a few minutes later. And this guy hosts thousands of people. Could we say he's that reckless that there is a pose of danger, that people might be bent, that a building might collapse? Could he be that reckless that he continues to do a service soon after there was such a fire outbreak? No, he's not that reckless. He knows what he was doing. It's you who doesn't know. That's why you are defending him and say, we are even going to build I've seen Mugos in the comments saying, we are even going to build. We are. Who is we? You and who? It's Chris who's just going to collect money from you. It's not your auditorium. It's for him and his family and daysmen, that promiscuous young men who traffics young girls from all over the world. Those are the beneficiaries of Chris Oyakhilome's gimmicks, not you. Stop saying we. You don't count in Chris Oyakhilome's world. You don't. You are nothing to him. He's something to you, but to him you are nothing. Okay, before we deviate from the main discussion, tell me what you think. Was the fire accidental or deliberate? And how come there is no one who was affected? A few hours after the fire erupted, a service was being held and a message of hope was being given. Don't worry, we'll build even a better auditorium. Come on, think about it. Let's dig deeper. Until I meet you again on the next episode of the Latter series, this is Mr. PDT in the mat.